This little talk today will prove to be very interesting to a lot of you all.
I wanted to share this today because sometimes we don't know how to communicate with our brothers and sisters of other backgrounds, especially Muslims. Yet I do all the time because I'm very interested in God's plan. But one day some Muslims came into the restaurant and I was sharing with them, and they were all excited because it's a story of, it's called the Cave of the Seven Sleepers. If you Google it in, you can learn that they were early Christians in Ephesus. In Ephesus, they were early Christians, and they were being persecuted under Emperor Decius. So these 7 youths, they were being persecuted and being killed. So these 7 youths went into a cave with their dog to hide there. And when they heard that they were in there, they put up a big rock so that they couldn't get out of the cave. And they had been forgotten. Interesting, around 200 years later, a farmer digging in a field accidentally opened this cave, and out walked these 7 youths, unharmed, unaged, with their dog. When they went into the cave with their dog, 200 years later, and the story goes that when he opened the cave, a little beam of light came into the cave, and they awoke. They thought they had been asleep. And when they came out, everything looked different. And as they went into the town to get some food, they noticed that at every fence post there was a cross. It's now Christian. And I thought it was interesting because it's called the 7 Sleepers of Ephesus. And they went into the town with their money, and the people in the town thought that they had stolen this. They didn't understand this because it was old money. And so when they questioned them, the leader was called in to question them, asked the story, and found out it was accurate. This was 200 years later. That's why their clothing was strange looking, their money was strange looking. But I got excited, and I'll tell you why. If you Google in the history of our Catholic faith, the Council of Ephesus met in 400 and some AD. You know what's interesting? At the Council of Ephesus is where they declared Mary Theotokos, Mother of God. Mary was getting everything done. That's where she spent her last days. But it's interesting because Our Lady of Ephesus, if you ever Google in about who is Our Lady of Ephesus. But it's interesting because in 400 and some AD, that's when they declared Mary Theotokos, Mother of God. Up until that time, they said she was Mother of Jesus, but it wasn't right to call her Mother of God. So the Council of Ephesus met in 400 and some AD, and that's when they declared Mary Theotokos, Mother of God. I thought it was interesting, but the Cave of the 7 Sleepers is mentioned in the Quran. This is the Quran, and this is Surah 18. Yeah. And it says the cave. It's the story of the Cave of the 7 Sleepers. It's also mentioned in their Quran. So if you ever want to talk to a Muslim, know your background, and you can share that with them. I thought it was interesting because these are things that most people aren't aware of. And if you want to learn, it's called the Cave of the 7 Sleepers of Ephesus.
And if you do a search online, all kinds of information comes up.
Yeah.
So you can check it out.
Fascinating, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.